Now I actually also want to explore better-auth, because that is a package I'm super excited about, because authentication is not difficult and super difficult. So if you want to add authentication to one of your websites, one of your web applications, you can of course use some package that enables Google authentication or Apple authentication and so on. And that's typically not too difficult. So if you search for Node.js, Google not authenticator, authentication, you will find lots of documentation on how you could do this with Node.js. However, if you want to have a library, or if you want to build an application where you also allow users to sign up with email and password instead of using an integration like Google authentication, if you then also maybe want to support two-factor authentication for those users that used email password, if you want to check on your client side, so in your React application, for example, whether a user is authenticated, if you want to have proper secure session management, all these things really add a lot of complexity, and building that all from scratch on your own, that is definitely no easy task. So that's the problem better-auth aims to solve. It is a relatively new package that already is quite popular. I saw it being mentioned on X and so on quite a lot. Doesn't have too many GitHub stars yet though. Let's check npm downloads. Actually, let's just take a look at the package like this. Okay, they do have a rather steep curve, but of course it's a very low level. So we are amongst the first to play around with it. But I think it's an awesome package. And the idea really is that it gives you both, like the server side, the client side, and it gives you integrations for different tech stacks, different libraries, so that you can use it with any Node app. So you can use it with any Node.js library you're working with. But for a lot of popular choices, they have like specific solutions, specific guides to make it even easier to get started. They have all these social providers built in so that you can use this package, have your own email password authentication, but at the same time also have Apple and Google authentication so that you offer different options to your users. They have all that built in, and that sounds pretty amazing. So what I want to do here is I want to go to that React AI image generation application that I built in my last live stream. And if you did miss that, that's no problem, because I will show you what this application does. It's a very simple React application that has a connected backend, which is a Node application, a Node Express application. And I will start my backend server here, and then also start my frontend. So the Node, the React application. And now let's see. Let's see. Here we got a login screen. And I built my own very basic, simple, not production ready backend authentication system here, where I use JSON web tokens. So where I create users, store user data with hashed passwords. And then when you log in, I check whether the email and password combination is valid. And if that's the case, I create a JSON web token, send that back to the client, store it on the client, and attach it to future requests. And that, for example, allows me to create a new user here. Actually, let's see. I don't want one password support here. Okay, so I create a new user, test60 at example.com, testers1. Whoops. I want to create a new user, of course. So then I'm also logged in automatically, though I could log out and then, of course, log in with the correct credentials again. And then here we can send a prompt to the backend and create an image, though for some reason it failed here. Why did it fail? Why did it fail? It worked in the last stream. Failed running app.js. Okay, let's see. Why is it crashing my server here? I mean, it's not too important here for the authentication, but it would be interesting to see. Unauthenticated. Oh yeah, because I cleared my replicate authentication token. Because the backend actually talks to another site. It talks to replicate, which is a website that allows you to run AI models through an API. And I cleared my API key there because I was paranoid if I maybe shared it accidentally somewhere in the last stream. So I could set up a new API key. Yeah, well, why not? Let's create a new one. I'm doing this off screen because, of course, the goal is to not share it with you or anyone else who might be watching this. So let me go here. Let me edit this here off screen. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so I edited this. The server is still running. So now actually let's try this again. And now we got this image generated. So that's what this app does. And now I want to start using better-auth here on the backend. That is my goal. So instead of having my own authentication system, I'd like to play around with better-auth. Therefore, let me go to better-auth and bring back the chat here. Got some questions here. Hi, Max. From the AW MERS. Hi Max, I'm 23 and passionate about front-end development. I've spent around 400 hours, wow, that's a lot, learning web development over the past 3 months. 400 hours. Good job. That's a lot. Focusing on React. I recently bought your React.js course with my savings. Do you think I'm too late to enter the industry? No, I don't think that. I think we have difficult times, and I talked about this in my last live stream because, of course, job market has been better. There is this fear with AI, though I did share my thoughts there, and you can visit my YouTube channel, Maximilian Schwarzmüller, to review this last stream. There is still demand, and there will be demand for developers in the future. And we had some rough years. I'm very confident that we'll see better years in the future. So yeah. Even Star, promising you're not using my key. I believe you, but maybe not everyone's as honest. Okay, so let's go back to better-auth. And let's install it, shall we? npm install better-auth, that is straightforward. So here in my backend folder, I'll run npm install better-auth, and I'll later also install it on the front end because we also need it on the client side to find out whether a user is authenticated. But here I'll start on the backend. And by the way, this is the first time I'm using better-auth, so I'm not teaching it, I'm exploring it here. So let's see whether that all works. And next we need environment variables. We need a better-auth secret, which is used for encryption and generating hashes. So I will edit this .env file again off screen and add this better-auth secret here and set it to some secret value. So I did now set this environment variable off screen. And okay, set this better-auth URL here too. And I do set it to localhost 3000 indeed, because my Node app is served on port 3000. So that makes sense. Create a file named auth.ts. I'm using JavaScript. I hope that works, but I think it will. In one of these locations, project root, lib, or utils. Okay. So I have a auth.js file here in the root project folder, so I guess I'll just use that. And I'll actually comment out all the existing code and now set up my better-auth code in there. So in this file, we should import better-auth and create our auth instance by calling better-auth and export it with the variable name auth or as a default export. So I'll export it as a variable named auth, call better-auth, and of course, whoops, for that to work, I'll import it as shown here. And then we pass an object to it, to configure this better-auth library. For example, we need to configure a database because better-auth does everything related to authentication. It also handles user creation and so on. So it needs access to the database. That's my understanding. Or it needs to know where to store users, where to retrieve users, where to store session data, because better-auth, as I understand it, does not create JSON web tokens and send those back, but instead it handles sessions and session cookies, which we can also use with a React app, as we will hopefully see. So we need to tell it which database to use, and it's great that they're using Better SQLite 3 here, because that indeed is the package I was using too here for handling a database. So I did create a users table myself here in the DB file. Actually, now I'll delete this and let better-auth do all the database handling here. Of course, if we would use that database for any other kind of data, we could also still interact with it in addition to better-auth. But here I'll just let better-auth do everything. And actually, I can just copy all this code to save some time. Okay, so here I'll name this better-auth DB, something like this. We could also, okay, that's an alternative approach, so I'll not do that. We could use some adapters if we were using Prisma, not doing that either. better-auth includes a CLI tool to help manage the schema required by the library. This command generates an ORM schema or SQL migration file. So now I need to run this command, right? Let's see. I'll stop that server. Doesn't work right now anyways. Let's see what happens if I run this command. In the backend folder. I'm running this command in the backend folder. Takes some time. Because obviously I'm also streaming, so I'm taking up some bandwidth here. So it expected a tsconfig.json file. So the problem is, of course, that I'm not using TypeScript. Do I have to use TypeScript here, really? better-auth without... I mean, there must be some way of using it without TypeScript. better-auth is designed to be type safe. Yeah, that's nice, but... But can I not use it without TypeScript? It's an authentication library for TypeScript. That is, of course, a problem. So, I see. Yeah. It's saying that here. Well, as I said, it's the first time I'm using it or playing around with it. So it only works if you're using TypeScript. That's... I mean, I am using TypeScript in most of my projects. Still, I would have preferred a library that also works with JavaScript, to be honest. Not just because of this demo here, which I now can't show you, obviously, because I don't want to migrate it all to TypeScript here. Wouldn't be too bad, I guess, but don't have that much time left here, so I don't want to do this right now. That's too bad. So I guess what I'll do instead is similar to what we did with Nitro. Walk through the docs here and explore which features we have. And then maybe in a future stream or some YouTube video or both, I'll build a proper project with it. So I do apologize for that, but I guess it's also interesting to see, like, I am exploring this for the first time together with you. So yeah, you stumble across things like that. Okay, so it is a TypeScript only package. Do you see more libraries going TypeScript only? Well, there are some. I mean, there also is like Sod, which is a TypeScript first validation library, which is amazing, by the way. I do use that in a lot of my projects. And I definitely see the trend that TypeScript is becoming like more and more the default, or maybe not the default, but it's definitely very common to build Node.js or any kind of JavaScript apps with TypeScript. Probably still the majority of apps are built without TypeScript, I would guess. But it is definitely becoming more and more common to have TypeScript first apps. And as it seems, TypeScript first libraries like better-auth. I mean, can't you just initialize the TypeScript configuration? We can try. I'm just not sure. Yeah, let's give it a try. You're right. Let's add a tsconfig.json file here and generate a basic Node.js tsconfig. It's good that we have AI, save some time. Use Node next here and something like maybe ES 2020. Don't have the dist folder. So have a tsconfig JSON file, app.ts and auth.ts and image.ts, and things will probably not work necessarily here. But we'll see. I will install like the Node types so that we have that. And then prompt here is a string and options is any to save some time. And here proper, well, this did work. Looks like we got some incorrect types set up here. Well, let's just do tsignore here. Just a quick and dirty fix. Let's also install like the express types. And then let's see if I can keep all your JavaScript files. True, yeah, I could have just used allow.js. I see. You are right, you're right. You're definitely right there. Well, actually, I should keep JS there. And that should go away because we're using we're using better-auth anyways. Actually, I think I can migrate that because it's not too bad. Let's keep it. You're right. Let's keep it here like this and then allow JS. True. But anyways, I'll probably not make this app work, but let's see if we can initialize and migrate, create those migrations with better-auth. So npm install add types better SQLite 3 here to get rid of that error. Okay, and now let's try the migrations again. I want to generate that schema. Okay, so that worked. Good call here. Yeah, no, that was very good. The real uncivil. You are saving me some work here. So back to the installation docs. We did now run our migrations. So now it actually did create that database file here. And I would guess it also wrote to the, no, it generated the migrations. Now we're going to run them with that command to actually like create the tables it needs in the database file. And here we can see what it will do. So, whoops. It will generate a user table where we will be able to store a name, email verified, image, created it, updated it, a session table, an account table, and a verification table. It's a lot of tables because, again, it does a lot of stuff behind the scenes for us. It does manage sessions. It will allow us to like do password resets and stuff like that. So that's why it does a lot of database or creates a lot of database tables. And it did now initialize that database file. And now we can, I wonder if this, yeah, it's nag99 and even star. I don't like using TypeScript for my side projects or small size projects since it slows me down a bit. I feel the same way for, especially if I'm prototyping. I really like being able to move fast, and TypeScript can slow you down quite a bit there. I mean, you can always like put any and ignore TypeScript everywhere, but that's not really the idea. So yeah, definitely for prototyping and smaller projects, I tend to prefer JavaScript too. Uncivil, I wonder if this works like Prisma generate. Meaning it creates type definitions for all tables. Good question. I guess we'll see once we start interacting with better-auth. Though I'm not sure. I guess we don't interact with it such that I don't think we will directly interact with the tables or the data it manages for us. So I'm not sure if we really need those types. And it probably also does need to generate them because they're hard-coded anyways, I would assume, because I guess it always creates these fields in these database tables. So they could actually hard-code the types it needs to interact with in the source code, if I understand this all correctly. Okay, so now let's see. We can now define which authentication methods we want to use. And as I mentioned before, it has a lot of built-in stuff there, like email password and social sign-in providers. So we could, for example, add GitHub authentication, Apple, Google. I'll not do that here because I would have to walk through the process of registering my app with those providers. So I will just use good old email and password, which it seems can be unlocked by simply adding email and password here and setting enabled to true. Or just setting this to true? No, passing an object and setting enabled to true. And then there's more stuff I can configure, like auto sign in, that we automatically sign in a user after signing up. Setting, okay, defining certain min and max password lengths. Set up our own password hashing function. Require email verification. Interesting. I will not do that here because I don't want to set up like a mail provider, maybe in a future video. And we can add more like magic link. We can also like register two-factor authentication if I saw that correctly. So you can do a lot with better-auth, definitely. To handle API requests, you need to set up a route handler on your server. Okay, so we are using Express. So what I need to do is I need to register such a catch-all route here. Use the two-node handler better-auth function from better-auth node and wrap auth with it. Okay, so now in app.js, I will register my app all route /API/auth/star. So set up such a catch-all route. And then use two-node handler from better-auth and pass the auth object I created in the auth.ts file, so this thing here, to it. So that's what I'll do here. Auth like this. Okay. And I guess this now gives us a bunch of /API/auth routes we can send requests to sign up users, to login users, and things like that. Okay, so now we can move to the client side and install the client side better-auth library there. So in the React app in this case here, so that we can interact with our backend, our better-auth managed backend from the client side. So what I'll do is I'll install better-auth in my React app too. So actually here, I'll stop my development server in the React app and install better-auth there too. Now, of course, this also is not a TypeScript application. So here we also need to add a tsconfig.json file. Give me a tsconfig for our React Vite app. I'm not sure how that will integrate with Vite though. That's probably not too convenient. But maybe just having that file here will be enough for now. So again, definitely want to have like the allow.js thing here set to true. And then restart that development server and failed to scan for dependencies. Yeah, that's probably because of that tsconfig file. Yeah. No, oh, yeah, but it's just because here it tries to point at some other file. So let's see. Yeah. Let's see whether that all works. So now we also have to set up a better-auth object, a auth client, on the client side, and tell the client where it finds the backend, the better-auth backend. And indeed, localhost 3000 will be correct for me here because that is where I'm running that Node.js backend. So I guess I can also add like a lib folder and then here this auth.ts file in the React app. Paste that code in there. And by the way, as you see, there are instructions for different flavors, though it's always the same. It's just a package that changes. Like here I'm importing from better-auth React because I am in a React app. Okay, and that's it. And now we can go to the basic usage to start using it. So we have email and password configured. And now if we want to sign up, we need to call on this auth client object the sign up or the email method on the sign up nested object. So I guess that's an auth form here where I previously called my own sign up function that would send a request to my own backend to a route that doesn't exist there anymore. In here, I now want to use that auth client, which I'm importing from that lib folder, so that better-auth auth client, and then use, why am I not getting any support here? Okay, so there is a sign up method. In the docs, they actually, oh yeah, sign up, it's a property, sign up, and then, okay, there is the email. So I got sign up here, and then on sign up, I got the email method, gotcha. And I can send the email, then the password and send, is this correct? No, I pass an object to email, which includes all that data I want to store. So actually, I pass an object to email, and in there I have email, and a username is required, as it seems, and a password. The other parameters are optional. Okay, so I have my email and password, and then for the username, I'll just use the email again, I guess. So that will return a promise, which I have to await. And I could register some extra functions here, which are triggered when the request is sent and when I get back a success response. Okay, I see. But here, actually, I'll just try to do it like this. And what am I getting back here? Data and error. So let's just console log the data. Now, I'm not convinced that this will all work now with all that JavaScript, TypeScript mix-up. So let's see. If I run my backend server, okay, that will not work. Cannot find image.js because I renamed this to TS. So that should be a JavaScript file. And I can get rid of the type annotations here. Don't need them, don't need that. And let's see. And actually, I also won't need the sign up and log in routes here. I can get rid of that too. And also get rid of enforce auth here, because that all used my own authentication logic, which is now not getting used anymore. So let's see. Now it's complaining that it's not finding auth.js, because of course it's a TypeScript file, but that also won't work because, well, you need to compile it, I guess, to run it. Yeah. So I think it would simply be cleaner to migrate it all to TypeScript here. Of course, we could try something like Node.ts to run this, but since I only have like 15 minutes left, I'll simply go back to the docs approach. Yeah, Node.mon plus TypeScript. I know there are ways to like make it work, but I mean, we can give it a quick try, but not sure into how many other problems we'll stumble here. So let's give Node.mon a try here. Oh, I already got, no, I got TypeScript, did not install it. Yeah, I won't bother getting this to work. It's just a waste of time right now. So I guess what we would do if we had like a totally TypeScript setup here, if we were using TypeScript on the backend and here on the client side, then we would call this email method here. This would then, behind the scenes, send a request to that backend because it knows where that backend is, because we told it when we set up that auth client, right? We told it what the domain of our backend is. So it would then send a request to that backend on our behalf. And on that backend, it would then be able to handle this, because there we also set up the better-auth object, and we enabled this email and password authentication, and we set up this catch-all route here, which uses this better-auth object. So it has all these routes set up for us, and when we call the email method on the client side, it sends this request for the sign-up to the backend for us. That's what it does here, so that we don't have to send the request on our own. It also tells us when it is sending the request, so that we could then like update our state, show some spinner whilst the request is on its way. And we also get back on success and on error, though I guess since we await this and we get back a data object or an error object anyways, we could also probably perform error handling and the success case handling simply in the next line of code, basically after we got the response here. But that's how we can send up a sign-up request. With auto sign-in set to true, which is the default, it will then also automatically sign in the user, which means, as I understood it, it creates a session, stores it in a database, and sends back such a session cookie to the front end. Now, that cookie, I think, is actually not accessible by client-side JavaScript code. I think it is an HTTP-only secure cookie. So it probably has some, it has a use session method, which we can use on the client side, which probably sends a request to the backend behind the scenes. And to such requests, any cookies that belong to the site are attached automatically, which allows the backend to verify whether we have a valid cookie, and then the backend replies back with, yes, you are authenticated. So that's a utility function we can call on the client side to verify whether the client is authenticated using that cookie that was issued by the backend. I think that is how it works, which is of course pretty convenient because it means we don't have to store any cookie, we don't have to store any token, we don't have to do any of that. We just create users, log them in, log them out if we want to get rid of them, and that would then send a request to the backend where the session is cleared from the database and the cookie is cleared, and that would allow us to have authentication essentially with better-auth. That's how I understand it. And if I understand it correctly, it works like that we can also call sign out and check for a user being logged in, no matter if we're using email and password authentication or a social provider. So better-auth is handling all that complexity for us, and it simply allows us to check on the front end with that use session function whether a user is authenticated or not. That's the theory, at least, and I'll definitely try that out in a pure TypeScript app in the future, maybe also in a future stream or in a YouTube video, but I assume it will work like this. What is the difference between better-auth and OAuth? So better-auth is a library which you can install into your apps, into your backend and front-end applications to implement authentication no matter which provider you want to use. So no matter if you want to use Google or Apple, or if you want to roll your own authentication with email password. OAuth, on the other hand, is a protocol, an approach, you could say, which is, for example, implemented by Google Sign-In, by Apple Sign-In, which is all about being able to log in following that protocol, for example, on other pages, so that you can, for example, log in through Google on my site here, even though I'm not Google. You could also build your own OAuth system and then also possibly allow users to sign into your system, in their account, which they might have with your site from other sites, but that's not what better-auth is about. Auth0. So Auth0 is basically a service provider. better-auth is a package which you can use free of charge in your application to set up authentication there, as I tried to show it to you. Unfortunately, I was not aware that it's TypeScript only. I should have read the documentation better. But it's a package which allows you to implement authentication into your own project. Auth0, as you can tell by the fact that they have a pricing page, is all about selling you authentication services. The idea is that with Auth0, it's even easier to add authentication into your project because it's really just about installing a library, and then you'll send all your requests to their servers. They're going to store users in their databases. They're going to verify users, handle sessions all on their servers, so that you have even less setup work to do in your application. But the downside is that you don't own the data and that it costs you money. Now, I guess they might have some plans where you do actually own the data, but still you're going to pay. Max, I was on the phone. Did you test to check if it automatically creates a user on the database? Unfortunately, I was not able to run it because of all that TypeScript, JavaScript mix-up, and I'm running a bit out of time, which is why I did not want to clean this all up. But yeah, it will definitely create a user for you in the database. You don't have to create users manually when using better-auth. Instead, it manages all of that for you. And I think I'll definitely revisit this in a future stream or video since I was not able to show it to you here. Now, since you're saying unfortunate, I would assume that you can, maybe you can extend the data it's going to store. I'm not sure if you can tell it that you want to store more data than the default data it's storing. Maybe through a plugin, if you build your own plugin. What you can always do, I guess, of course, is let it store users with all the data it thinks belongs to a user. And then you could have like a second table, a custom user table, whatever you want to name it, and link the entries there to the IDs of the users created by better-auth and store any extra data in that extra table. That will definitely work, but there also might be ways of extending or telling it that you want to store more data. Let's see. better-auth requires the following tables to be present in the database. So yeah, that is what it is storing. Custom tables allows you to customize the table names and column names, but does it also allow me to customize the columns and the data types? So you can customize the table and the column names, not extending the core schema. better-auth provides a type-safe way to extend the user and session schemas. You can add custom fields. Okay, so you can actually extend what it will store. Yeah. So you're not limited to the kind of data it stores for users. You can tell it to store more. You can customize everything as it seems. The table name, the field names, and also you can add more fields than it would store by default. So that is good to know. So yeah, better-auth definitely looks interesting, still looks interesting. I would have loved to see it in action. I'll try my best in a future stream. I gotta go now. So thank you all for joining. I hope it still was a bit interesting, the part about H3, Nitro, and most importantly, since some of you asked for it, seeing how I approach learning new things. Obviously, I would now set up TypeScript projects to actually implement better-auth. I'm just running out of time, so we'll do this tomorrow probably. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. And I hope I see you back in future streams. My plan is to stream again on Wednesday. And in general, you can, of course, simply follow here and not miss any future streams. So I hope you liked it. Can we add pre-trained model-based style options like artistic, photorealistic in the project? You're talking about the image generation. Well, just to quickly help with that, I am using the Flux, let's see, the Flux Schnell model, this one. So I'm using this replicate site to send my requests there, and they're running the actual AI models. And there you can, of course, put anything you want into the prompt. I can't show it to you because I broke the app and I don't want to like git reset and stuff. I could stash it. But anyways, you can, of course, adjust the prompt and, for example, say, give me an illustration of a cake or stuff like that. So you can put in any prompt you want. That is possible, yeah. And you also get a bunch of other parameters which you can fine tune. And of course, you could also use other image models from Replicate if you wanted to. This was just an example I picked for this demo app. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for being part, and hopefully see you in future streams. Bye.